In this recording, we're going to go over the 3D and how to get the Excel to produce all those numbers that you need for question numbers 3 through 8 in your homework set. So we're going to be using Excel's descriptive statistics to get the standard deviation, sample variance, and range. And then we have to use this formula down here on the bottom for the IQR. And we're going to learn more about what the IQR is in Unit 4, but for now we're just going to type in that formula. Those 3 dots represent where is the data set. So when you type those 3 dots, instead of those 3 dots, you could either click on the column header, or if you put the data set in column A, like I will in my example, then you can just type A:A. So problems number 3 through 8 from section 3D asked us to open the bare data. He suggests to go to the website, but actually the website version of bare data is a little outdated and we won't have the histograms available. So we're going to use the bare data that I post in module unit 3 right here. And then instead of Staccato, we're going to use Excel. We're going to create a histogram and then find the mean and the 4 measures of spread. And let's get started with that. So first things first, to open the bare data, you can click on bare data and then click right here, download bare data Excel 2016. So click that and then wait for that to download. And once that is downloaded, you'll click enable editing so that we can manipulate the data and get our information. So let's see, what's the first thing we need? So in problem number 3, we're looking at bare ages. So I'm going to grab that bare age row and put that on a clean sheet by clicking Control-C and pasting it onto a fresh sheet, which I'll call age. And I'll put it in A1 by clicking Control-V. And then I can double click between these 2 columns to make that fit a little better. So first thing, find the shape, which means we need to make the histogram. So we go to Insert, and then Histograms is the blue bar chart, Insert Statistical Chart, and we want the histogram. Notice how this is highlighted in blue now, telling me that that is the data represented in this graph. And I can tell that that is right skewed. So I'm going to go to my PDF or my homework notebook, and wherever I'm writing this, I'll write, let's see, right skew or skewed right. Now to find the range, the IQR, the variance, I'm going to run descriptive statistics. In fact, when I scroll down in the textbook, I see that I want mean and standard deviation also. That's also going to be in my descriptive statistics, so that's fine. So back to my data. For this, you're going to need this. This is in a PC. You go to Data and Data Analysis. If you don't have that Data Analysis button, you need to install the Analysis Tool Pack, which is, there's a recording that says how to set up Excel that you can watch for that. And if you have a Mac, then you can use the screenshots that are in the announcements. Okay, so assuming you already have that, you go Data, Data Analysis, and Descriptive Statistics, if it's not already highlighted, and click OK. And in the input range, I'm going to click on the A to let it know I want all of column A. My row is my information is grouped by columns. There's a label in the first row saying age, so I don't want that included in the data calculations. And then I'm going to put it on the same worksheet. So I'm going to click on Output Range. And the output range, I'm just going to tell it where to put it. I'm going to put it right here under the histogram. And I want summary statistics. So your data, columns, labels in first row, either output range if you want to put it on the same sheet, and then finally the summary statistics. Click OK. And again, I can double click between the rows to expand it. And I have my information now. So I was asked here for range, which I see here is 169. Oops, sorry. That one was supposed to be the right skewed. And then the range was 169. Next thing is IQR. That one's a little trickier, so I'm going to come back to that. Variance is the sample variance. So that's 1137.085. And, oh, darn it, I put it in the wrong spot again, sorry. Okay. 1137.085. And the mean is right there. Is 43.51852. And standard deviation is right here. Okay, and then the last thing we need is the IQR. So let's go back to that now. So the IQR is that formula that I showed you earlier. So I'm just going to add it to the bottom of this table, and I'll label it IQR so I know what it is. I'm going to make this row a little bigger so you can see the formula I'm typing in. That's going to be equals quartile, that third function right there, parenthesis, and then the array is column A, and the quadrant I want is 3. So you can see that this is going to represent the third quartile. And then I subtract quartile of the same array, 1, which now I'm subtracting the first quartile. And that's going to give me the IQR of 40.75. Okay. Now we did say that you do one decimal further than your original data set. So this original data set is actually 0 decimals. So I could round all of these numbers to 1 decimal place, and I could even have Excel do it for me by highlighting it and then going to Home. And there's a button over here that says to decrease or increase the decimal. So if I click that until I get to 1 decimal point for all the data, then I have all my data with 1 decimal point rounded already. So Excel rounded for me. So the sample variance is 1137.1. So I can actually write the rounded version of that. Or the mean is 43.5. Standard deviation 33.7. So these numbers are a little less accurate, but if you want to round, or if you're directed to round, then this is how you would do it. 40.8, and of course 169 is a whole number. And that's up for that data. The last two questions ask about how accurate are the mean and standard deviation for this data. Well, since this data is skewed, it's not very accurate. So mean and standard deviation are not accurate since this is not a normal or bell-shaped curve. And the last question, write a sentence to explain the meaning of the standard deviation in this context. Regardless of how accurate it is, it still has the same development, the same formula as any other set. So it still says that the typical bear ages are 33.7 months from the mean of 43.5 months. In other words, we can write that inequality sentence about the boundaries of those typical ages. So we can do 43.5 minus 33.7 as the lower boundary. Of the typical values, or the typical ages of bears in this data set. And the upper boundary is the mean, which is 43.5, plus that standard deviation of 33.7. So that's 78.2 is the lower boundary. No, sorry, that's not right. Let's see. 43.5 minus 33.7, that's 9.8. So 9.8 is the lower boundary. 9.8 months is the lower boundary of the typical ages of bears. And the upper boundary is 43.5 plus 33.7. So 43.7, give or take that one standard deviation, 77.2 months. And that is the number 3 finished. And numbers 5 through 8 are very similar to number 3. So you're going to get your histogram to get the shape, and then your data analysis to get this table. And then you got to do IQR. You got to type that manually with this formula. And then you can fill in all of these spaces with the answers that you get from the table and graph.